Greetings all, and welcome to this 16th lesson in our Confirmation Course 2019. Today we continue our study of the first article of the Apostles' Creed, which goes, I believe in God the Father Almighty, creator of heaven and earth. Now in our first course, our first lesson on this topic, we focus, as do most people, on God's creation of the world, of the beginning of everything in existence coming into being out of nothing, and God doing so by His almighty word, framing the foundations of the universe and bringing forth life and all the various creatures and things that we now see. However, we focus today on not only God's initial creation, but on God's continuing creation. For while God brought everything into being and gave them their shape and their, organization, and has worked through everything to bring it together harmoniously for our continued life, nonetheless, we as Christians believe that God continues to work through His creation by providing us with the things that we need for continued sustenance of life today. Moreover, God continues to work in creation to guide our lives, to shape our characters, to mold our hearts, and to guide us always in His paths so that we can better know Him, better love Him, and better love one another. So God's creative involvement in the universe does not end with the creation act itself, which again is usually the focus of this article of faith, but rather God continues to work creatively to design and craft how existence works, and even how it interfaces with our lives, so that His purposes in our lives can be brought to their purpose and their end. I'm here in a beautiful backyard garden. You can see a gorgeous array of flowers, many colors. The trees, the bushes, the plants are all full of lush green heavy leaves. And altogether, the sense is one of the earth springing to life through these beautiful plants. What do you see? Moreover, if you were to answer the question, how did these things come to be? What answer might you give? Now, clearly we can answer from the first few chapters of Genesis that God has made all things and gave everything their shape and their form. But at the same time, we see every year these same plants that go dead over the winter springing back to life. And again, the trees bring forth their leaves and their fruits. The gardens bring forth their beautiful flowers, and the animals too give birth to a next generation of birds, of deer, of turkeys out here. And creation continues to exist and renew itself each year. Now, God is the source of all life on earth, and we as Christians believe that just as God made the earth in its very beginning, so does He continue each season, each generation to bring forth life through the means that He has set again and again. The sun continues to shine, the clouds continue to bring forth their heavy rains to nourish the earth, the soil conveys its nutrients, and this whole cycle of life continues again and again. And God's hand was in this from the beginning and continues to nourish the earth, as the scriptures proclaim, which will be in our readings today. Now, an interesting question comes up as we're looking at this garden here. How did this garden itself come to be? Because as you can guess, it didn't just all come to existence entirely of its own. Now, looking at these flower pots, we might observe another entity involved in this creative process. For while the plants themselves spring forth out of the laws of nature that God has instituted, and the life in them has been given directly by God, we can notice the flower plants, or the flower pots, that have been shaped and glazed so beautifully, the way that these flowers have been set in place in their soil and are pruned. And also, you might notice the wooden deck on which they all lay. There's definitely been a contribution of humankind in also cultivating this part of creation. And as God Himself has made all that exists, so He has turned over a large portion of it to humans' care, and has endowed us with reason, with intellect, with will, with creativity, with design, and with all sorts of manual skills, so that we can be co-creators in this creation that God has made. Adam, in the book of 1st Genesis, was given the responsibility to cultivate the garden, to tend it and steward it. And we too, by applying the various gifts that we have, and people indeed have many various gifts, we contribute to the upholding, the sustenance, the orderliness, and the altogether flourishing of creation. And so we are, in small part, co-authors, and we have been given the great gift of working together with God out of the wonderful gifts that we have to contribute to this wonderful creation that overarchingly God has made. And so you can see the fingerprints of very largely of God, but also of man in what we see before us in this picture now. And so I invite you to consider, from what you see and hear before you now, what has God made? What have humans made? And where have they cooperated together? God's natural design interacting with humans' creativity, ingenuity, and work to bring about a creation that is not only beautiful and comfortable, but also sustaining easily of a continuation of human and natural life working together in harmony. When we consider the Apostles' Creed, each word has been carefully chosen to distill the essence of Christian belief down to its most concentrated form. And so as we go through the Apostles' Creed, we find that every single word has been selected and placed carefully. In the first article of the Apostles' Creed, it is stated, "I believe in God the Father Almighty, creator of heaven and earth." Now, we've talked a lot about God and creation, and in this lesson, continuing creation. But we also have to look at the identity of God that is named in the first article of the Creed. It says, "I believe in God, the Father Almighty." And on reflecting on this naming of God, we can, if thinking back through the scriptures, probably remember clearly instances where God is heralded as Father. Jesus himself, when talking to and about God, most commonly addresses him as Father. And indeed, not only as Father, but even using the words, he encourages his disciples to pray to God as a word that may be translated as Dad or Daddy, indicating an approachability, an intimacy, and a trust in which we are ourselves to understand and approach God. And so, how might you conceive of a good father? What does a good father do? And how does this image of God help to understand who God is and what he's like in relation to us? Traditionally, fathers have been a source of strength and protection, defending the ones he cares about, of provision and sustenance, as well as of guidance through the difficulties and challenges of life. And so we see these very same qualities prominent in the Bible's description of God. And so we, along with Christians around the world, proclaim God, as revealed in the Scriptures, as God the Father Almighty. Not only as Father, but indeed as Almighty. For if we look around the world today, what would it take to bring about everything that we see into existence and to continue to uphold and sustain it? The power that we see at work is indeed far surpassing anything that we might bear, and even our best efforts don't amount to a whole great deal in light of the enormity and the beauty and the wonder and the wide expanse of God's creation. And so we, along with the Scriptures, name God both as Father and as Almighty, that is all-powerful over all existence and all that will happen. We hope this has been a fun trip for you, seeing some wonderful aspects of God's creation and also seeing some of the ingenious things that humankind have made, and considering the interplay between the two, how we co-author with God in creation, how God continues to support and sustain the existence that he has made, and also considering the nature of it all, the reason why it has come and continues to exist out of the nature of God's character, his fatherly goodness, power towards us, or his fatherly disposition towards us, and also the enormous power through which he's able to bring these about. So God bless you in your readings for this week, as well as in your homework assignment, and we look forward to having you join us again as we turn our attention next week to the second article of the Apostles' Creed, that focusing on his Son, Jesus.